Hi everyone, I'm Shrut Kirti. I am here to talk because I am a researcher. I research products, experiences, services, whatnot, and I love mentoring folks. So I love sharing my years of experience with people, help them solve their problems, and that's my blame. Now, what is the talk about? I would like to begin this talk by actually quoting this expression from Tisha Wang, who is the co-founder of Southern Compass. She called this out in the 2019 keynote address in the Mind the Product conference. And the context in which she spoke this quote was like how the researcher's role is now being shaped in the industry. So coming from 5 years old role where it was very siloed and the researcher used to work independently, not very much in collaboration or in context with the other product teams. The world was changing. The world is still changing, and now researchers are more and more working in a cross-functional world. So she calls out that researchers move from being methodology gurus to discovery guides. So it's not just methodology that they are actually trying to prescribe to their studies, but it also they are taking a discovery guide mindset where they are trying to discover a solution to a problem along with other cross-functional teams. And she goes on to say that as a researcher, your job is no longer the execution of research, but about embedding yourself in the business as partners. So she's basically talking about how the role has sort of moved on from just implementing research to someone who is a business partner, who is a teammate to a product manager than anything else. And then to enable everyone to experience the customer and to facilitate the cross-functional conversation about the experience to best impact the product. So just following up on the business acumen skill, she's also calling out how it is now the researcher's responsibility to now not just take the experience that they are having with the experience, but extend it to their partner teams also have them view it, see it, facilitate the conversation among the customer and the teams so that the best impact product can be created. Moving on, I would also like to quote Monty Hammontree. He is a partner director of user experience research at Microsoft. And in his very famous article, The Future of UX Research, he says that we are at a step which is evolutionary in nature. I mean, we are at a place where there are more problems than there are more researchers in the industry. Now, how do we solve this problem? How to scale? How do we scale researchers? How do we scale this industry in general? And he says that it's about expanding the role of researchers to focusing on empowering everyone to learn. So the answer does not lie in adding more researchers who focus on learning on behalf of the many, but rather empowering everyone to learn. So what I would want to call out in the beginning itself is these two folks here, Trisha and Monty, both of them were talking about how other skills than the technical skills of research methodology are becoming important day by day and how they need to be focused in. And the role is sort of expanding to empowering everyone than just being a problem solver or insight gatherer. And that is something that the other statistics also suggest in the World Economic Forum survey recently. It suggested that 40% of the current workers' core skills are expected to change in the next 5 years. They will need reskilling. Similarly, all employees will need reskilling by 2025. There are 50% of employees that might need reskilling there. So let's just try to understand if that is also the case with UX research and the UX industry in general. And I would like to actually walk you through the data from 2019 to 2021. This is a survey that was done by one of the researchers. I have shared all the talk links, article links. You can have a view at them later. But he talks about the in-demand skills for UX researchers in 2021. And what came up as the foremost is, of course, methodology. There is no comparison to having, a researcher who is strong in his technical skill set, who knows the various methodologies, flexible around the time frame, has a mixed method context and whatnot. But what's also surprising is there are other set of skills such as communication skills, process management, collaboration that also stood out. So what I want to highlight is it's not just the technical skills that are, mattering anymore. It is more and more the soft skills that are taking an edge over the technical skills and becoming more and more important in the roles that the companies are hiring for as researchers. And if you look at the primary and secondary UX researcher skills, soft skills, in a deeper way, and we see the spider chart, we further see that, the skills that stand out are collaboration, being creative and passionate about things. It's about being influential. And the reason I want to call this out is when we think about any mentoring experience, right? We always think about, gaining technical skills. Any course, any MOC available online sort of talks about how you can become a good researcher by learning the technical skills, the methods, right? The right practices to conduct the study. But very few actually talk about the soft skills that are becoming so important for the job. How to learn collaboration, how to be, creative in your role, how to be passionate about your role, how can you influence the decisions that the product teams are making. So in today's talk, my intention is to actually talk about how can we adapt ourselves to the changing needs of the industry. And with any problem, first and foremost, as a researcher, I like to identify the problem. And same here, I would like to identify the skill set that I currently possess. Why? Because if I do not understand what skill I already possess, I won't be able to understand what is the gap in my skills and where do I need to further improve myself. How can I actually go about identifying my skills? So I would like to briefly talk about the different frameworks that are out there that talk about the different skill sets professionals have. There is a I-shaped framework which says that you are an expert in one thing, right? You have deep expertise in one thing. And there is a journalist which says that you are capable in a lot of things, but you're not expert in any. And then there is a T-shaped skill set, which is more about that you are capable in a lot of things, but you also have expertise in one area, and you sort of can take your shots there. And this idea of a T-shaped skill set was something that was coined by Tim Brown once again. And he goes on to say that this vertical line of the T and an ability to work cross-functionally across disciplines is what is going to be the future of work. So that's what we see, that, not these days organizations are not just looking for a specialist or a generalist, but rather are looking for a T-shaped generalizing specialist, someone who can focus on cultivating the broad level skills as well as have a deeper expertise in one particular domain. They have the ability to collaborate as well as conduct research in a deeper way. Now, we might argue that, how can one sort of, develop skills in both areas, cross-domain skills and attitudes, or which ones are more important to focus? But over time, we have seen and research by Harvard professors also have shown that both types of skill sets are important. It's important that we focus on developing both the horizontal skill set as well as the vertical skill set. I would also like to call out that the T-shaped skills might apply differently in different contexts, and the ways it is described is a little different. For some, it might be about having like a horizontal reach, right? Something like as a researcher, you may be having skills which are more around being influential, being more collaborative, having better communication skills, and and the impact of the skill might be vertical in nature. So that is one of the ways to describe it. The second is that you might have broad knowledge around very different areas, but it can be a set or combination of different areas. And then there is, of course, depth of knowledge which could be level wise. But what I mean by this is, let's say you have some soft skills around communication and collaboration, then you some around persuasion and whatnot, and the depth of knowledge lies around, let's say, your qualitative research skills. There are also people who like to reverse the T and say that in the T-shaped skill set, the bottom line, the dash sort of forms the baseline of it. You should be having the base skills more so, and then go on to develop some expertise and mastery in the skill set that you would want to become a specialist in. And for those who are, I would like to call out the previous ones were for everyone, like in general sake, anyone who is beginning in research or in UX area. But for someone who is already in the UX research domain and they're further trying to upskill themselves, they're a mid-level or senior level researcher. There are further skill sets like pie-shaped skills or comp skills, which sort of call out how you can have broad knowledge, but at the same time, you can be a specialist in multiple areas. For those who are looking for leadership positions, there's something called, X-shaped skills and Y-shaped skills that they can find handy and they can develop themselves into. So the reason I call this out and why I talked about the various skill sets is it is important to identify which skill set are we and where do we want to be. The next is assess the gap. What's the gap in our skills and where do we want to be? What do we aspire to be? So here are some examples of a T-shaped designer and a pie-shaped designer, and I've listed out the technical skills that might be needed in the breadth region, not in the depth region. They can have, more expertise in, let's say, design mock-ups, prototypes, interactions, whatnot. And similarly, they can be a pie-shaped designer who has a breadth of skills around user research, testing, whatnot, but maybe is more focused around information architecture and sitemaps, maybe have a major in that. So what I would like to call out is this is something that I could only find for designers. I could not find it for researchers, and I even could not find for other roles in the UX industry. So that's the reason why I would really love people here to think about where does their technical skills fall into. It is in the breadth region, or do they have expertise around it? And if you're looking for something around UX researcher mapping, I am doing a workshop next. If you would like to be included in that, do let me know. But I would also like to call out that in the previous slide, I had just looked at the technical skills. There are a bunch of internal soft skills as well as external soft skills that you should also map onto the T-shaped and pie-shaped designer. So these include self-confidence, awareness, compassion, etc., which you yourself can develop, right? And there are some external soft skills that you sort of have an impact or a halo effect when you're working with a team, such as collaborative teamwork, having effective communication with your team members. Right. And it's often recommended that you have a combination of both internal soft skills, external soft skills, and technical skills. Here's a brief checklist that I could find for a UX researcher. If you're interested in knowing more about this, do let me know. It covers both hard and soft skills, but it is not properly differentiated and segregated. But somewhere down the line, it's also talking about how a researcher needs business acumen, UX research responsibility that are often overlooked, like operations, collaboration, and mentorship. Now, the next thing is how can we develop and hone new and existing skills? So this is a very important aspect, and why should be focusing on this? Because just listing out and assessing the gap isn't enough, right? We should be working towards it and building the future for us. So the first thing is I always recommend people is focus on your interest. Do not think about or go fuzzy around the different areas that are available out there. The big names buzzwords that you hear in UX is what would you want to upskill yourself into, but really understand like what's the focus area that you would like to be moving forward with or you have interest in. For example, for me, emerging technologies is a very important area. I really have interest in AI and ML, and I'm trying to upskill myself as an emerging technologies researcher next. Second is don't let your major limit you. So I have a major in cognitive and neuroscience. I primarily took qualitative and quantitative research in my major, and beyond that, I haven't actually practiced any kind of research. But I am thinking of learning inclusive research as well because that's something that interests me and that is beyond my major. And as I previously said, always mix hard and soft skills. Do not just focus on hard skills. Please work on your soft skills as well. I would also like to say that when you're doing that, strike a balance between what is general and what is useful skills. So oftentimes we get an exhaustive list of skills and we just, without thinking, sort of go about taking up courses. But it might be possible that those skills are within you and you might not even need a course around it. So just try to understand, like, what's a skill that's general, that it's already present with you, what's useful in your organization context, what's missing and you would want to improve upon. Then the most common way to develop skills is take advantage of online education resources. There are so many soft skill courses that are available online. LinkedIn Learning is a great medium to have some soft skill courses there. Then third, go outside your comfort zone. Take up diverse, challenging projects. This is the best way to challenge yourself. You will feel uncomfortable. You will feel yourself challenged, but you will learn a lot. A lot of new skills, working with new kind of people in new context. Read across a variety of subjects because that's how you'll get to know about more new skills, how you can upskill yourself. You will form perspectives and a vision around what you want to become as a professional. Third and lastly, join industry groups, engage in discussions. UX Brighton is one such industry group. There are more out there. Engage in discussions, debate, have active networking events, right? find or become a mentor. That's what your experiment is actually doing for you. But even if you do not want to, you can find a mentor yourself. And lastly, participate in team building activities. I cannot stress more how good it is. Like even in your own organizations, if you get yourself involved, you learn a lot of soft skills from managing, organizing, collaboration, communication, and whatnot. Then practice. Why do you need to practice newly learned skills? Because if you do not practice, you do not improve. It's just one time thing, and it's learned, lost forever. How can you practice? Make it a habit. Try to make consistent efforts, involve it in your routine. Like, for example, I like reading a lot, and I make it a point that before I start my day, weekday, I often look at Medium articles, the areas that are interest to me. I look at inclusive research papers first thing in the morning. That way, I do not miss on that. I have some reading constant habit in my routine. Give your specialty extra attention. If you already know that you have some specialized area, do give it extra attention. If there is anything new happening there, any update that's happening there, be on top of it. Learn it as soon as possible. Work on new and challenging projects. I already called this out, but I think this also makes sense in practicing, because when you work on new and challenging projects, you actually apply the concepts that you have learned theoretically. Secondly, I would say deconstruct skills. So by this is a complex thing. So for example, if you're trying to learn communication skills for yourself, try to understand like what exactly communication means to you. Where are you lacking exactly? Is it communicating your insights and findings, giving deck share out? Is it actually communicating with your stakeholders? So deconstruct those skills and try to find out what area exactly you want to you are having a gap and you want to practice out. Seek out different perspectives. So this is where you get to understand like what are the different ways I can solve the same problem. So even if you are maybe learning a soft skill and you think you're reading just one aspect of a book or one book which just calls out like communication for stakeholders, try seeking a different perspective from actually speaking with a stakeholder and asking them that how do you think my communication skill was. Did you feel it was I communicated in a coherent way, right? Speak in a fashion which was easy and digestible. Then again, reassess. Once you have learned your practices, it's important that we reassess our skills over regular intervals of time. Recognize the gap in your skills, define and highlight impact after changes. This is not only important for you as a professional, but it also comes in handy when you're actually looking for a job, because when you can say out loud that I made effort to learn the skills, and after that I made some changes in the way I speak, and highlight those changes in the work that you show at the time of hiring, and seek feedback from others. I think this is really important because they are more than you. There are other people who are viewing you, seeing you as you make progress. They are also a judge of your character, right? So getting some feedback from others about your skills and about your progress is a great way to reassess yourself. And lastly, I would like to call out that this is a never-ending cycle. It's always about identifying, assessing, developing, practicing, and reassessing. So if you come from a growth mindset, I would say the learning never ceases to exist. You will be striving for becoming a better professional more than ever than last time. Here are some resources for you to get started. There is an Nielsen Normal Group skill mapping template. You can use it. It is for teams as well as individuals. There are some learning and education resources that I have compiled. These are mainly for entry-level researchers and UX professionals, but I'm also working at mid-level and senior level. And there are some soft skill courses also that I like and I have actually tried and tested out. So I'm giving that list out. And lastly, I'm doing a hands-on workshop on UX skill mapping, assessment, and tracking. And if you want to be part of it, do let me know. And I would like to end the talk by this quote and calling my title again, The Holy Shift and Not the Shift. Reason being, the world is changing, right? That what is being required from a UX researcher is different. It's not just about serving the customer who use the product, but it's also about the product makers who build the product. So we should empower both to achieve more than they ever thought possible. Thank you.